fluidity. Just feel that word. Find it in yourself. Fluidity.
Yeah, and compassion is coming up again today.
Good. Right. It's like who said it couldn't be several days in a row.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
know
It's
I
like,
have.
yeah, exchange compassion.
Yeah,
Like,
love
like
it.
it's a currency. You know what I mean? Like it's a,
Currency of life, currency
yeah,
of joy, currency of joy, peace, passion, power, purpose, prosperity. I love that. Exchanging, exchanging compassion for making connections. That takes fluidity.
yeah. The circuits are clean. Circuits conducting energy. No resistance.
Releasing the pressures, the confinements, the limitations. The expectations. It took me 15 minutes of silence is our exchange. But internally, it wasn't, it was peaceful, but not quiet. And I don't think it ever is quiet. What came to me after 15 minutes was the awareness of what I need, what I want, what I desire, and then what I can choose without pressure, without forcing, but being fluid, moving in and out, changing the question, the view. So this was all an awareness for me. Again, I was like, where's my heartbeat? Can I feel it, hear it, find it? And it was really easy right there. For 15 minutes, I would have glimpses of it, like, oh, there it is. And I would put my focus on it and I couldn't find it. Oh, there it is in my head. Maybe just to go, was it that feeling? I'd feel for it. Oh, I'd work really hard to feel it. Couldn't feel. I was just scanning my body. Where can I feel it? Where do I feel that pressure? Changing pressure. And as soon as I notice it and I put my focus on that spot or that feeling, that space, it dissipates. That's like what it is to focus on what we want. We don't know. We explore. We look for, we ask the question. We come from all different places, angles, perspectives. Move it around to be curious with. They're very important questions. And much more complex than just feeling my heartbeat.
Hmm.
Or making sense of what my heart is telling me. As I said that, everything just went to a calm.
Yeah, it did for me too.
Exchanging calmness, exchanging compassion. So now I can feel my heart surging on the left side of my body, but only for a split second. It's almost as if the moment I think about it, right, I can't find it. I can't feel it. I'd ask the question and sit in the void, sit in the space, and then it'll be, oh, there it is. That is the heartbeat. And not chase it, just acknowledge it, honor it. Maybe that's more what our wants and desires are like. Maybe that's more what our heart is like, feeling and reading it. Just when it's there, it's like, oh, there it is.
Yeah,
Passion when it's there and when it's not. It's like, oh,
yeah, it wants to be observed,
mm-hmm.
wants to be heard.
But it's not a speech.
No,
It's not to capture your attention and hold it for minutes, right? It's just like whoop, in and out. Whoop, it's a flash, it's a spark, it's a conductor of electricity, of energy. That we're learning to turn on, nurture. Interesting. I was focusing on the things that negative charges that and almost like I said to myself throughout the day that I could recall moments that I was out of compassion, little moments of fight, of anger, of frustration, spite. I felt like I brought them into a ball and just let them all bounce around. I held it. I held them there. I was like, okay, held my attention, like focus on it, and then bringing the others in, allowing new ones in. I could just feel it. Like I could feel it intensifying. And then they dissipated slowly. My intention, my focus was still, I was like, okay, I could just watch it. I could just feel the charge draining away like a battery, draining the charge out of the battery. Releasing those moments, those charges, those memories, those patterns. And then I said, what would I want to replace them with? How would I rather choose to act in those same moments or similar ones that will come again? And I thought about those. And I let those positive charges grow, take root. It's like I planted them. And now I'm watering them. And it is compassion, Craig, that I planted.
Mm.
Compassion for myself, for having the thoughts, the charges, the anger, the frustration, the revenge, vengeance. And as I say it, I release it more. As new memories pop in. Morning, Allison, to exchanging compassion,
Mm,
amplifying connections, aware of our fluidity.
thank you. That's beautiful.
It's been a beautiful morning.
I love the amplifying connections.
Connections with others and connections of our patterns connections of our wants, desires, and choices.
Mm.
Connection to what we are feeding, what we're nurturing, what we're caring for. We're feeding in terms of getting energy to. The awareness of what's there, of what is, and the fluidity to change it, to modify it, to look at it differently.
Mm. I had that quote that I brought in a few weeks ago, swirling in my mind when I woke up this morning. And it's clarity of mind, purity of heart, sincerity of action. It goes very nicely with what you've got.
The clarity of mind. That was the first part. Yeah?
Yeah.
If we focus on the clarity of mind, just intend, I intend for clarity of my mind.
Mm.
Hmm.
Be aware of what happens after you ask the question.
Mm-hmm.
I choose clarity of mind.
I choose clarity of mind.
I choose to clear my mind. Clear my mind and choose clarity. What was the second part?
Purity of heart.
So there's where I can get clear. Now that my mind is clear, I can have clarity of purity of heart. Compassion again comes up there.
Mm-hmm.
Heart's purity, the purity of the heart, a pure heart. What does that feel like? What is a pure heart for you? Where do you feel it? Clarity of mind, purity of heart, and
The third one was sincerity of action.
sincerity of action, commitment to, joyful of, curious about, committed to, compassionate for. What was the adjective again? What was it again?
Sincerity.
Sincerity, thank you. Sincere action. Sincerity. Clear mind, pure heart, sincere action.
I found that you could work it differently too in terms of the order that it's been given, even though the order is for me is perfect. But sometimes I really struggle to have clarity of mind. And so then if I remember to come from my heart, and allow the clarity to form, and that helps a lot.
Sounds like fluidity.
Yeah, and maybe it's also in terms of being able to identify what is in that moment the most important.
That's what I find. I can, if I get nothing, ask a question, it's nothing. It's like, okay, I just have to come at it a different way, which is a different question, which is what I hear your fluidity. And it's not like it's all the time that I get to, there it is. It's more of, it's amazing when, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
And is there a better answer out there? Yes, but not in that moment. It's the sincere action. It's like I know that that's the one today, and that's where practicing the words of the day has helped me listen to that.
Mm-hmm.
To build a practice around those three things: clear mind, clarity of thinking, of thoughts, calmer, not the same patterns running around, not the same four phrases bumping around in my head, but no, calm. More like the mind is following the pure heart as I work to find my pure heart. It's way down, deep down in there somewhere.
Mm. I don't know why, Jess, but with that statement, I thought of a session that I had again with a 13-year-old that is very bright. And earlier in the conversation, we had been talking about geography and continents and all the different countries that they each have. And later on in the conversation, we get back to emotions because that was our agreement that we always circle back to talking about emotions. And she said something about depression, and she wasn't referring to herself. So I said to her, so do you remember that depression itself isn't actually a single emotion? And if it's not a single emotion, then we know that it's not the emotion that you need to release. Those are the kinds of terms that she's used to now. So she looked at me and she said, a defense. So maybe a defense is like a continent that has many different feelings. And I thought, well, I'll never forget that metaphor again. Because I'm working the change triangle with her so that she gets language around being able to identify pure emotions from secondary emotions and from defenses. And the main thing is I want her to be able to pull apart the primary ones from defenses.
Could you repeat that last statement, please, Allison?
I want her to be able to pull apart the primary emotion and differentiate between a primary emotion and a defense. And our defenses are usually a conglomerate of emotions. It's not, and it's interesting because it's not necessarily the usual way in which we conceptualize a defense. Like, we wouldn't think of depression and anxiety as being a defensive emotion. But what we do know is that both of those experiences come about because we haven't been able to sit with the primary emotions, for instance, of fear with anxiety and sadness with depression.
Well, look at that clarity, purity, and sincerity of those emotions that we don't want to be with.
Mm.
Clarity by calling them, by naming them, by labeling them. Purity of acknowledging and allowing them. And the sincerity of releasing them, moving through it,
Mm.
seeing it for what it is.
It's great awareness, Jesse. I love that.
Or we can continue to avoid them and by medicating ourselves at worst, or just continue to push them away and push them down.
Mm. And that's an automatic, right? Because usually, I'd say 95% of the time, for whatever reason, there wasn't the support to facilitate the regulation of those emotions in our childhood.
Yeah. Not for that 13-year-old moving forward in life, but who's just learning to face the emotion. That's all. Like, see it, not like fight it, not like confront it, not like struggle with it, which is all that we do, right?
Mm.
But it's not to avoid it.
Mm.
It's clear that it's sadness. Why am I sad? Oh, this happened. Oh,
Mm.
okay. What's all in the sadness? What does it bring up from the past? How about the future? All it's doing is telling us what's important.
At that moment.
at that moment. And if you notice, the more that we work that to figure out what's important in that moment of every moment, it accumulates. There begin to build trends. Like, oh, that's okay. That keeps showing up. That keeps showing up. That keeps showing up. Oh, let's get clarity on that. Let's look for it. Let's seek it out. Let's find it.
So that brings another quote in mind to me that's one of my favorites. And that was Pema Chodron. She's a Tibetan nun. And she wrote, "We have no way of predicting the future, but the present moment that we're in, but we know that the present moment we're in profoundly impacts on it." And just to have that and to realize what we do right now is of huge significance.
What's coming to me right now has to do with creating defenses. And it's like today's the day to dismantle those defenses that were built way back when. Because in that moment that was present, they were and they profoundly affected the future. It's about rewriting the narrative, going back to that moment that was present and rewriting the narrative of its future.
I was working yesterday, or just concepts, right? And it was like resisting versus another word, right? It was like, oh, look at resistance versus. It's like against. The intention is to just know to be at the opposites of her, but it's like, oh, the different polarities, right? They are at odds with each other.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. It's resistance or. It's like that's another versus or. It's like, oh, it can only be one or the other. But it's like resistance and fluidity.
Mm.
We could even say resistance, but fluidity.
Yeah, and the back there has such a difference.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, we started with it. We started with a negative, right? Started with a negative charge and put a negative after it.
Mm.
So often we do a positive and then a negative.
Yes. And the negative is the one that dominates, not the positive.
That's right, because it's left hanging, right? It's left there. It's left out there.
Mm.
It's as if that whatever's last will override, or it leaves the one that you were on where it was and adds and goes to the next one. And so often we don't allow that positive to grow, so we're always just feeding the negatives as we bump around. To your point, Allison, which is why we're stuck in the negative emotions, the negative feelings so often, or stuck in avoiding them, which is the same damn thing.
Yeah.
Or in defense mode.
Defense of
Yes,
them, yep.
exactly.
Anger, stress, worry.
So the other thing, I'm sorry. The other thing that this kid was noodling was um, how countries form alliances with each other. And so that was in her mind when she went from the emotions back to the countries to use it, have a metaphor for defense. Defenses happen because alliances are formed for protection. And they could be good, but the earlier discussion about continents and countries was about the wars, the two big ones that she knows about. She didn't know about what's going on in Sudan and Syria. And she'd been talking about how protection can be a good thing, but war definitely is not a good thing.
Protection seems to lead to it.
It can, yeah.
It's like it's the precursor, it's the setup. My point is not to we take down all the protective measures. That's not the point.
Mm. Mm.
That's general economic strategy in our world today. Is you quickly hoard as much as you can and then you protect it.
Or protect all that you've got along the way.
Right.
Risk is the other word.
Okay, so I'm sorry, but so that brings something else to mind.
No need to apologize, as long as you put a positive afterwards.
So the
As long as it's good enough.
quote went, we I think it went like this. We think we have families and jobs and houses and cars. But the only thing that we really have is life.
Mm. And where's the room for life and all the other things?
Exactly. That was the point. I think.
You're farther ahead than me. So I don't know why you apologized for bringing it in.
No, because it's the third one I brought in already this morning.
Oh, like there should be a limit. Maybe for you, just for Allison.
No,
Not
please
me,
don't.
though. Not me. Not me. That's a true leader. You can't bring in any ideas. Just let me bring them all in. Sorry, Craig, I cut you off.
Yeah, Allison's on a real roll here.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, keep it coming, lady.
Because I've been pummeled full this week with all sorts of things. That's why.
Well, thank you for sharing them.
You're very welcome. I have to say this every time I finish with a 13-year-old. I think to myself, I should be paying her parents and not them paying me.
Yeah, exactly.
You are.
Noticing that that's a trend. Is it the wisdom that it's taken us a lifetime to build? A lot of these younger people have it all innate inside them.
That's the blessing of evolution, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And it's in all of us. It's in, there wasn't space to express it because the other patterns were there. That's why when we hear it now, we say, oh, well, there it is. There's just something in it deep that says that's true.
Yeah.
We've just, the structures have built up everything else around us to close that part of it off. That's how our generations did it. As if there was a better way. I mean, that's what was trying to be proven. Like a big experiment. And whoever started it's not around the way they started it, unless it's something else above the plane or a computer simulation, right? But that takes away your point, Craig.
No, I think it adds to it.
I'll take that too.
Yeah.
Sidetracked it, but yeah.
Yeah.
Because
when you unpack it, there's a lot in there.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, it's innate in all of us.
Yeah, and fostering it from the youth. It's like, oh, that's the huge change. That's the creative structure that washes out the old. Because us older folks, we're a pain in the ass to change our ways. Right, Allison?
Yeah.
I don't give up on it, but compared to that 13-year-old, And that, see, that 13-year-old has all of those thoughts running on in the world, and yet the world's telling them those are wrong thoughts. So where do they go?
Yeah.
We defend them. We put a defense up and say, okay, you can't come out now.
I mean,
Oh, that's profound.
You know, with this kid also, I always remember every single time in that very first session when I asked her if she could perhaps tell me what it was that made her think that it would be a good idea to ask to speak to somebody. Because that's how she came to me. She said to her parents, I want to talk to somebody, and it mustn't be you, mustn't be mom or dad. So like so clear. And they had noticed.
Pure and pure.
Yeah, yeah. They'd noticed that she wasn't herself for quite a few months, and they were worried about it. And they didn't know what was going on. And then they worried even more, of course, when she asked to speak to somebody because they thought something terrible had happened. And luckily it wasn't that. So she looked at me and she said, well, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but the day that I asked my parents, I found myself in my mind standing on the edge of a cliff with a huge, big, gaping black hole. And that black hole was not the black hole that scientists talk about. So she was being very clear to me. And she looked at me and she said, and in that moment, I thought to myself that I was betraying myself by being so lonely and sad.
Oh my.
13-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
If we could just listen. Wow.
Yeah.
So she could, basically what she was doing was talking about capital self and small letter self.
Yeah.
The widening gap.
Mm-hmm.
The closing gap from the younger version of ourselves where that was free flowing and fluid and out and demonstrating, and then withdrawn. So probably half of our life, right, between the two.
Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, as we know, for many people, it's their whole lives.
That's right.
Yeah. What's coming to me around this is that these young people are showing us what we already know, but have built up defenses around it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're younger, so they haven't had as much opportunity to build those defenses as we have.
That's how it appears to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this kid is she's like a sponge. She just,
Yep.
she'll take, she takes things that are, might offer, and it's very clear to her which ones she'll take and which ones she'll morph into something better. Inevitably, that happens.
Isn't that a great demonstration of the and?
Yes. So now you see why I feel like I need to be paying them and not them paying me.
No. You got to get out of the dollars. Got to get out of the dollars, and you are paying her family.
Yes, I know.
Meaning her family's getting value from this. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I love you.
Yeah, well,
You're paying attention to her. That's
Right.
what you need.
Yes.
You're paying her attention.
Exactly. Yeah.
Understanding. Someone to spark with.
Yeah. Someone who's listening.
Mm.
That's all the children need and want, is someone who will listen.
Mm-hmm.
That's all every one of us wants.
That's what I wanted when I was younger.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Still do, actually.
We all thrive on that.
Yeah, it does so much for you think it does so much for our worth, of our self-worth, our own story of ourselves. And when that's not there, we're looking to be right.
Yes, and we look to be right because we want that experience of an exchange and an affirmation. And if we don't get it interpersonally, then we create it intrapersonally.
Yep.
And it's not. Yeah. Sorry, Jess. Go.
No, keep going. Keep going.
When we do it intrapersonally, there's not as much opportunity for diversity.
Yeah. We wonder why we're not, and so we basically come up, there's something wrong with me.
Yes. And that is an automatic childhood pattern.
Yep. That we all have.
Yeah.
Can you spell that out again once more for the record, please?
You want to go, Jess?
No.
Okay, so I'll try. So when we don't have it in our interpersonal relationships, which make use of our mirror neurons, those are the neurons I love the most, then we look for it internally, and we create we create more of an internal dialogue, which in itself is a wonderful thing. But if we don't practice it between ourselves and others, if we don't have the opportunity to practice it between ourselves and others, we don't have as much diversity. And life is dependent on diversity. And that's the irony of all the fear that there is about the other, right? So that I went off on a tangent about that, sorry. But the essence is, if you don't allow for the interpersonal exchange, or if the opportunity is taken away, then the internal exchange between our different parts becomes more active, but it's insular instead of being interactive.
And so there's a child that's just learning to talk. They're just learning few words. And it's not like all the words show up in one day, right? This is we're
Exactly.
learning the words. To be able to speak the words is when we're really learning words. Only when we speak the words is when we really learn the words.
Yes.
And even here, we say new words that shape and have new meanings as we work them. So, as this child is developing, familiarizing themselves with words, right? They want to be heard, listened. And as they test it, as they share what's inside out there, what does the world do? Eventually, the world shuts them down. And they turn down their genius, their greatness, and their gifts. And internally, as they're turning it down, what's happening is they're playing that story inside their head. Why am I not being heard? Why am I not good enough? Why don't I this? And it's a self-sabotaging.
Mm.
And that's the defense that's coming up over the genius, greatness, and gifts. Because we're learning how to be in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you end up suppressing your own genius.
That's it. Yep. And
by internalizing
replacing
everything.
Yep. Yep. All because you weren't getting what you wanted, which was just society is not encouraging the and yes and what's next? Yes, and what's next? We're encouraging, no, this is right. No, this is right. Wrong answer, right answer. Good, bad. We're unaware of how much damage that does. Well, we see it. We see the damage that it does. We just don't point it to that.
Right. So a child expresses itself and is met with judgment.
Yep.
Wow.
And then it brings the emotion in, right? And so we hide that emotion. We run away from it. We avoid it because it's an unpleasant emotion. Because no one teaches us how to deal with them. And now we've created patterns. Sorry, Allison.
No. I was thinking about, how do we deal with them? And parents that can't do that demonstration for their kids, can't do it because it wasn't demonstrated to them.
And then their kids won't see another way to do it either. All they see is the way their parents deal with it.
That's right.
So that's the only way they learn, because how else would you learn anything else?
Exactly.
A pattern that just keeps playing.
Yeah. And you think about it with sadness, when parents are crying, how often do they hide their crying from their kids? Don't let the children see that you're crying.
Yep. Yep. Don't let them think anything goes on, but except for that it's perfect here.
Yeah,
So now the child has an expectation that they've got to have a perfect relationship.
exactly. And that they've got to be perfect,
Yep.
which means rigid as opposed to flexible, actually, when
Yep.
we come to it, right?
Yep. Cascade after cascade after cascade.
Yeah. So
Wow.
Carl Rogers used to say, as a therapist, if you notice that you've missed something in your commentary to your client, don't worry about it too much, because it will come back. The opportunity comes back, because that is inherent in the human body. It will bring back things that are unresolved.
Always does.
Yeah. And when you think about it, so with kids, as we were talking earlier, they got this clarity of what they want because there's no barrier. There hasn't been time to form a barrier yet. And but even with that, there is a limited amount of times that they have that inherent capacity to display or engage. And we know that from research that was done with babies and mums. And what happened when parents didn't respond to a baby? If they sat there with a blank face, within 2 minutes, children would be in a frenzy emotionally, because they would keep on trying to get a response and there was nothing. The face was there, but there was no emotion.
Look how early it's starting.
That's right. It starts right there. Right there.
Wow.
Always. So it's well before the words.
Yeah.
What can I do to get the response I need, I want, I'm looking for? I mean, we don't, as a baby does not have that language.
No,
No,
it's just
It
the
has
nervous.
that urge. It has that
that's what's
urge.
going on. You bet.
Yeah.
Yep.
The emotions are playing it out. And then as the emotions, the emotional patterns are there, we start to add words to them. Not that we become aware of our patterns, but we our actions, our behaviors, and our words, yeah, are just following that pattern,
Yeah. Yeah.
that learned pattern.
The patterns are established without words,
And
before words.
establishing, you bet. That's why we can't just change the story.
Exactly. You have to attend to the vibration, in other words, the emotion first, or alongside changing the story. Got to be a both and.
It is. You can use the story to get back to it, like to the point, but to go any to get to really get to the, especially if it was an emotion early on, like a fundamental, which they all are, a core. You've got to use the emotion to get to the core. And then as you write it, that's what we've done and learned here, is as you write that emotion back, then you're creating the words that could have been there because you have them now.
Yes.
That's how we release resistance.
Yes.
And I'm talking deep resistance, deep. We're talking deeper than you've ever been able to go resistance, not us, but most people. And that's why just talking about this doesn't work either. It helps. It helps. But it doesn't do anything to the pattern. I shouldn't say that either.
Well, you're right, Jesse, because sometimes what can happen in the talking is that you reinforce the pattern. Because so if I go back to what I brought in this morning, think about it. It goes to the three primary levels of mind, heart, and action. And
Which is
when
all.
Sorry, say.
The action is the behavior, is the patterns.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it also depends on the kind of, or the patterning of the talking, right? And what is acknowledged and emphasized in feedback.
That's right.
That's an action. Even though it is talking, it's an action.
Yes.
My perspective, then you bring awareness and new perspective to it. Maybe you even unlock some from the subconscious.
That's right, Hans.
I believe the talking actually expands her perspective, gives her many more opportunities.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I was young, you had a very narrow perspective compared to what we got here.
Yeah, me too. That's the right way. That's the wrong way. You don't do the wrong way. Why not? You go to hell. Oh, what's hell?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds like fun. Sounds like fun. Let's go. Who wouldn't want to go to hell? That's where all the parties are. That's where all those people are having fun. Strippers are there? Wow. What's a stripper? I mean, what else I mean, that's what a teenage boy wants. Women, booze, and cigarettes. That's hell. My whole family does it though. Why is it
Well,
hell?
there probably ain't no hell. There probably ain't no heaven. It's a
I
creation we
think,
create in our
I,
minds.
yeah, I think most of
We
us are
might
living
go
in
there,
hell
but it's
anyway.
our own creation.
Amen to that, right? I think most of us live in hell anyway.
Yep.
If heaven's on earth, hell's got to be here too.
Yeah.
And if hell's on earth, then heaven must be here too.
That's right.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I for me personally, I could not imagine a better paradise than the planet Earth.
Right. Yeah.
I don't want to go to Mars.
Yeah.
Well, it looks tempting, doesn't it?
No,
No, it
Only
doesn't.
on the surface.
no
Only on the
desire
surface.
whatsoever.
How
No,
about the moon? How about the moon? Everyone goes away and they look back at Earth and say, "Wow, look how cool that is."
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, going into space, yes, but going to another planet, no, no, thanks. There are no trees there.
Right. There's no water. I mean, there's nothing.
Trees are one of the rarest things in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just how many people live in the desert? I mean, by choice, by choice. Let's put it by choice.
Mm,
With no water, right? Like how many people live there? That's what Mars is.
exactly.
It's only the nomads that live there by choice, traveling from place to place.
Yep. Because nobody else wants to.
It's both a
That's my
hot
point.
and cold experience.
That's
Mm.
right. Yeah, there's not much diversity, let's put it that way. What a rich conversation this morning of fluidity, genius,
Yeah.
greatness, awareness, connections, compassion. I mean, it just adds to the compassion that we can have for one another, knowing that it's all uniquely different, yet fundamentally the same experience for all of us. And the potential and possibility that the youth are when we listen to them and give them space to tell us, to show us, to demonstrate to us what it was like for us.
It's hard to be a
Yeah.
spirit in this world when it's all based on materialistics. Been that way for what, the last 5,000 years?
That's true, Heinz.
Yeah.
That sounds about the same times that marriage came up, huh, Allison?
Smart ass.
Yeah, just imagine the word marriage wasn't invented. How would you
Yeah,
explain that to a woman? Well, do you want to be with me for the rest of the life? Wear this ring and no word.
yeah, that's a whole
Yeah. That's
different
a whole other
conversation.
conversation. Yeah. Yeah.
There are too many, too many joyful exclamations at that.
Yeah. Yeah. I just got some new insights around marriage just as you were talking about it. It's interesting. But I don't want to miss something that we just kind of we didn't skip over it, but we didn't explore it anymore, and that's the whole thing about creating defenses. And the idea that young people can show us older people where we have built defenses. The interesting thing is when that happens, we get to combine our years of experience with their fresh view. Their view that's unobscured by defenses, or a lot less than I have. I know that much.
So who has to have the fluidity?
All of us.
Yes. Yes, but more so is the older, the more experienced people.
Yeah.
We have to be the one that's fluid for open to a different perspective.
Well, I know I'm the one that has all the questions.
Yeah, but not most, but like you're, yes. Right.
And that's okay.
And I want to hear what they have to say. Well, it is okay. It's a place of power for me.
Yeah.
There's a
Well,
power of empowerment.
Sorry, I missed that, Allison.
Sorry, my comment to Craig was just to think about the difference between power and empowerment.
Yes. But see, I'm the one that's running around right now trying to recapture my childhood. And I'm realizing that hanging out with young people is a key to that. Being open to their innate wisdom.
I think that's a very good thing.
Oh, totally. Totally.
And they'll be open to yours.
Yeah, and it empowers me to be the one who is asking the questions, because I really want the answers.
And they really want to be heard.
Exactly.
Then that's how things work, is when there's people with somebody they want the same thing, but from two different points, two different ways. It's like that's the compassion together. That's the compassionate connection. Ooh, there's a good word for you. Connecting compassion, passion, connection.
Yeah, I like that one.
It is. It's all about those defenses. All about the recognized emotions, emotional patterns, wounding. We call it wounding, right? The wounding identities that we've covered up, hidden, mm, moved, learned to deal with, but not in an appropriate way. Comes all the way back to making it personal, taking it personal.
Yeah, because when we do that, we shut things down.
Yeah.
And again, it's about the degree to which we do it, because we do need footholds to be able to climb up things, right? And you've got to be able to have a stable place to put your foot as you are climbing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
But that's where the hurts are.
Yeah.
That's where the hurts are. Explain that a
Yes.
bit more.
Well, the reason you put up defenses is because that's where the hurts are.
Yeah, but I'm talking about a foothold.
Yeah, I know, but that's how you, the defenses are also the footholds. The hurts are also the footholds.
Oh, wow, I don't conceptualize it like that at all.
It depends on where we're speaking of, because there's two different, they're coming from two different points. One is the helping of it, and one is saying, oh, that's how they're built.
Yeah. Good
So it's
point.
like when that foothold fails, that's where the hurt happens. So it's like, oh, I'm not going to take that step again. Hurt. And what you're saying, Allison, is helping to support the foothold. Help them take that step. And when we don't have that help, we don't have that support, and that footing fails, oh, we say, oh, the defense goes up and says, I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to avoid that. That was painful. I can't express my genius because I got laughed at.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I'm saying is the way out is actually through that defense that was set up. It's having the courage to use that foothold again, even though you vowed you wouldn't.
What's on the other side, and it's through it.
Exactly. Yeah. See, I'm not going to do that again as a limiting belief.
No.
And that's the belief that holds you back.
That's the avoiding.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's never as if the same situation's going to happen again. But what we do is when we say that the first time, then we start looking for it again, right? Unconsciously. Oop, there's one like it. That's going to be the same thing. Oop, 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 oop. And that's how those fences, that's how we build, that's how we lay the bricks for that brick wall. Because it's like that one. It's like that one. It's like that one. And it's always from the past that's happening in the moment. You can only lay the brick down in the moment.
Yeah.
And boy, do we have a lot of moments.
Yeah, a stack of defenses, a stack of limiting beliefs.
which ends up just being a jail.
Exactly.
Because
Yeah.
you just build the
Yeah.
bricks around you.
Just add more bars.
Because you're on the inside, you're not on the outside.
And then you don't get what you want.
That's it.
Right.
Thinking
Because
you
I tried
will.
that and it hurt.
Yep. Yep.
So I'm not going to
Thinking
try
you
it
will.
again.
Yep.
Yep.
And even it was in the direction of what you really wanted. It was in the direction. It was like, oh, there was a reason to take it, but it was like, oh, I took it. Oh, now I can't have that. Oh no. What do I do? I go over here. Let me do. Oh, boo. Oh no. Yes, I just can't have it.
Drawn a conclusion through a limiting belief.
And we're talking 5-year-olds here, like 5-year-olds.
Yeah. Or younger.
Yeah, I mean, you're a little older, right? I'm not talking 46-year-olds. I'm just talking 46-year-olds that are seeing this now,
Yeah. Yeah.
40 years later.
Oh, tell me about it.
Hey, it's all right, Craig. It's all in the same time.
Well, yeah. Yeah. It's
The
all in
present
one
moment.
timeline. Yeah.
It's all in the
Exactly.
moment.
Yeah. It amazes me how much all that stuff synchronizes.
Feels
Yeah,
good to
and
laugh, Allison.
I know. I was just thinking that's what Craig said now about being amazed how it all synchronizes, and I often laugh at myself because when I have that experience, then I think, well, like, why am I so surprised? I mean, don't I know that that's what there is? And I might know it to speak to it on the odd occasion, but I haven't embodied it yet.
Mm. Yeah.
Embodying. It's like een. You're een. You're ing it.
Mm-hmm.
Being it.
Mm. Mm.
Well, thank you for an amazing morning. I had fun.
Thank you too. It was really good. Wonderful to hear your voice, Heinz.
Real interesting day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, before you leave, Jesse, can you put the YouTube address of this session up?
Mm-hmm. Just where do you want it? In the centered group? Or
Yes.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, put it in Heart Center group. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll do.
Good.
What's that, Allison?
I said that's a good idea, the heart-centered group.
Okay. I will.
Yeah. Wow, this
Okay,
day has been
everyone.
so electric and profound. Unbelievable. So you guys really rock, you know.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. All right, doll. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye, Heinz.
So
Bye, Craig.
valuable today. Okay. Have a great day, everybody.
You
Love and
too.
hugs.
Thanks. Bye.